Hello and welcome. This is our third presentation for the North Central European Union. Today we'll be covering the economic environment and the financial environment of this region. Gross domestic product, or GDP, is a nominal measure of total economic output of an economy at current market prices, reflecting its overall size and market value. This is not to be confused with GDP per capita, which will be covered in the next slide. The values here were referenced from the International Monetary Fund database. On the left, we see Germany with a GDP of 4.74 trillion, and it remains the largest economy in the EU, although it experienced a slight contraction with a growth rate of negative 0.2% in 2024. The United Kingdom boasts a GDP of 3.84 trillion with a modest growth rate of 0.3%. The Netherlands has a GDP of 1.28 trillion, growing at 0.5%, and Belgium, with a smaller relative GDP of 685 billion, showed resilience with a growth rate of 0.4%. On the right, we can visualize the trends in GDP since 2022. GDP per capita income is the average income per person as seen on the left. This is measured by dividing total income by total population. This differs from the previously covered nominal GDP, as GDP per capita serves as an indicator of a population's average financial well-being and standard of living. While GDP per capita does not account for income inequality, inflation, or other non-monetary benefits, it is a good measure of economic health and standard of living. Data for GDP per capita are from the World Bank and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, for median household income. In our research, we utilized the median equivalized household disposable income metric. Taking the median was a better representation of what the majority of the population earns. Using the average would not be an ideal representation of a typical household income due to skewing from outliers such as the extremely wealthy or the poor. As the measure involves disposable household income, these dollar amounts are adjusted for purchasing power parity, or PPP, to account for international differences. Here's a general overview and comparison of per capita and median household incomes among North Central EU countries and the US. On the right, we have Gini coefficients for the selected countries from 2013 to 2017. A Gini coefficient, which was developed by the Italian statistician Corrado Gini, measures income or wealth inequality in a population. A score of 0, or 0%, signifies perfect equality, as in everyone has the same income. A coefficient of 1, or 100%, represents perfect inequality, where one person holds all the income. The higher the coefficient, the more inequality that is present within that country. While this variable is most commonly used to measure income inequality, it can also be used to compare wealth distribution and analyze economic policy. Here, we see the US has more wealth inequality in its population than the North Central EU. Comparing with the bar chart, note that the US has the highest median household disposable income out of the selection, while the Netherlands is the top per capita income country for 2024.
To understand the economical risks these four countries are facing, we've reviewed the risk factors the EU is facing as a whole. The European Union Institute for Security Studies conducted an extensive commentary, in which they surveyed European experts from universities and think tanks about the main risks to the EU. Some of the remote risks identified are international conflicts like the friction between India and Pakistan, and the political violence in the US between our governmental parties. Among the grey points, we see things like the aggression from China, conflicts in Libya and Sahel, and nuclear and terrorist attacks upon the EU. The final red points have a high likelihood of occurring and a very large impact on the future economy, with a focus on the war in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas, and the war within Ukraine. To understand potential solutions, we can first see how the strength of the European economy is against the US. In all three locations noted in the image shown, we can see that the price of a Big Mac is, in comparison to the baseline of the US, higher than the rest of the globe. The European market holds many strong currencies that lead to a valuable financial environment that, if protected, will flourish. From the same study previously mentioned, we can see potential solutions provided by those participants in regards to how the EU should behave to resolve the current crisis. In regards to the major global friction between their international neighbours, they should work to resolve root causes, as any crack in the tension could lead to a broader, potentially global conflict and a huge migration flow into the EU. In the meantime, they should also unite their near and distant partners like the UK and Taiwan with a clear vision in regards to items like China's role in its future economy. In regards to Russia, they should bargain for a favorable ceasefire that can't be broken easily. They must also isolate Russia from their economy, so Russia will be less likely to deploy nuclear weapons. The EU must form a unified, coherent posture to Russia, which should endure beyond any ceasefire that could be built for Ukraine. Lastly, in regards to the US, the EU must remain aligned with the US, as many of their important and major economical risks align with the US's own risks, although some are not of the same equivalence or importance towards the US. Additionally, they must send a strong signal that they need the US to support them, as the current risk of the US abandoning the EU constitutes a threat of nuclear proportions. If the US separates from the EU, then a massive increase in defense spending is required.
The financial environment in Germany, United Kingdom, Netherlands, and Belgium is shaped by macroeconomic policies, market dynamics, and global trends. Since mid-2021, financial conditions have tightened across Europe due to inflationary pressures and monetary policy adjustments. Germany and Belgium have demonstrated resilience with stable banking sectors and effective regulatory frameworks. The United Kingdom and Netherlands face challenges related to productivity, investments, and market fragmentation. IMF working papers highlighted the impact of financial conditions on output, inflation, and unemployment, emphasizing the need for balanced policy responses. These countries benefit from integrated financial markets, but must address structural issues to enhance stability and growth. Understanding the financial environment is crucial for assessing investment risks and opportunities. Comparative analysis and visual data from IMF and OECD sources provide a comprehensive view of the financial landscape. U.S. firms actively engage in marketing activities across Germany, United Kingdom, Netherlands, and Belgium, leveraging digital platforms, local partnerships, and targeted campaigns. Germany and the UK are primarily markets for technology, automotive, and financial services, with firms adapting to local customer preferences and regulator environments. The Netherlands and Belgium offer strategic access to European markets, with logistics and e-commerce playing key roles. IMF reports highlight the productivity gaps and investment challenges faced by European firms, which U.S. companies can address through innovative and capital infusion. Marketing strategies include localized content, multilingual support, and compliance with EU data protection laws. These activities enhance brand visibility, customer engagement, and market penetration. Understanding the marketing landscape helps U.S. firms tailor their approaches and maximize returns in these competitive markets.
Germany, the Netherlands, and Belgium use the euro, while the United Kingdom uses the pound sterling. As of October 2025, the euro trades at approximately 1.17 US dollar, while the pound sterling is valued at 1.34 US dollar. Historically, the euro USD exchange rate peaked at 1.6 in 2008, while the pound sterling USD reached a high of 2.0 in 2007. These rates are influenced by monetary policy, inflation, and geopolitical factors. Currency exchange fluctuations have significant implications for U.S. firms, particularly in pricing strategies, cost management, and profitability. Currency stability in these countries supports investment and reduces financial risk for U.S. businesses, However, exchange rate volatility can affect competitiveness and it can necessitate hedging strategies. Additionally, regulatory differences and trade policies in these financial environments influence marketing activities and operational decisions. High income levels and consumer sophistication in these markets present opportunities for premium product offerings and tailored marketing campaigns. Understanding the financial landscape is essential for U.S. firms seeking to expand or maintain their presence in these European markets. Exchange rates to the US dollar fluctuate based on global economic conditions, monetary policy, and trade balances. Historical data from the IMF and World Bank show that the euro has experienced moderate volatility, with recent trends indicating stabilization due to easing inflation. The pound sterling has shown greater fluctuations, largely influenced by Brexit related uncertainties and domestic fiscal policies. Marketing budgets may need adjustment based on local purchasing power. Additionally, financial regulations and transaction costs vary, impacting investment decisions. Firms must monitor exchange rate trends and adapt their operations to mitigate risks and leverage opportunities in these markets. The Big Mac Index on the right provides a simplified view of currency valuation, showing whether currencies are over or undervalued relative to the US dollar, which can guide strategic planning for market entry and pricing. Here are our references, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you.